Welcome to today's verdict. I'm your host and trial attorney, David Lesch. We're going to be talking about two distinct topics today. First off, the recent settlement by the Department of Consumer and Worker Protection with respect to Chipotle. Next up, we're going to be talking about self-defense and a particular bodega owner who's no longer to be facing charges. As you can see, we have much to get to, so stay tuned. Today's verdict starts right now. Okay, welcome back to today's verdict. I'm your host and trial attorney, David Lesch. It's not too often when I have a colleague who I know personally, who I know is so good at what he does, but I have the following guest. Alexander Sanchez is with us, and we're going to be talking a little bit about self-defense as we can get as much information from a criminal defense attorney as we can. Alexander, thanks for being here today.
Oh, thank you, and thank you for that generous introduction.
Alexander, it's all true. All right, so it's been quite a summer for those who were accused of different crimes, and certainly use self-defense as an excuse. Maybe you can walk the viewers a little bit through the process of self-defense and what that really means in terms of the criminal justice system, if you could.
Sure. Self-defense comes under the rubric in the criminal justice system of something known as justification. And it's written in the criminal justice procedure laws under Section 35, which talks about when someone can use physical force, when you can use deadly force. There's separate rules for that, right?
Yeah.
So self-defense, I mean, in sum and substance, self-defense means what most people think it means, that if someone attacks you, you have a right to defend yourself. But most people don't know all the intricacies of it. What does that mean? You have a right to defend yourself, and how far can you actually go? So let's talk about an ordinary situation. Somebody comes up and they start punching you or slapping you in the face, right?
Okay.
Well, believe it or not, if you are in a position to leave the location, you have a duty to try to retreat as long as you can do so safely. So if somebody came up to you and they slapped you right in the face and they just stood there, and you could walk away and go and call the police or take some other action, you're actually supposed to do that unless you feel that the attack is going to continue. Now, I know that's counterintuitive, and most people think, wait a minute, somebody comes up to me and they slap me in the face, and I should be allowed to hit them back instead of having to walk away. But believe it or not, that's called the duty to retreat.
So, growing up in the 70s, there was a lot of vigilante justice that we would talk about or we would see in the news, whether it was the Guardian Angels or just movies like Death Wish. You just remember, these people coming out of the shadows to protect and prevent future crimes. But that's not allowed. You can't just come out and hurt somebody just because you think they may do something in the future. You yourself have to be physically in danger. Am I correct?
Yeah, first of all, I wouldn't recommend you trying to learn about the criminal justice system by watching movies like Death Wish. That's number one. But let's say somebody comes up to you and they punch you in the face, and you can't, it appears that you're under attack. You just can't just run away. You have a right to defend yourself and punch that person back. But the rule is, it's known as the proportional rule. You can only use that degree of force against the person that is attacking you that is necessary to repel them.
So let's give a couple of examples. So let's use the example with the bodega owner who was attacked by this particular gentleman. The bodega owner pulls out a knife, stabs him in 3 different places, and the guy passes away. Where does self-defense even start? The first time he sees him, the second time he sees him? How does that work?
Well, I think it starts earlier than that, because from my understanding of the case, he had some type of dispute with the assailant's girlfriend earlier.
That's correct.
And the assailant's girlfriend said, you know, I'm going to have my boyfriend come back and do
Take care of
something to you in a very using very graphic terms. And so he was aware that, you know, something may happen. Maybe he didn't know who it was going to be from, but he's suddenly on alert. Next, this guy shows up. Now, he may have not had a weapon in his hand at the time, but I think the most significant factor there that I was able to see was that that man went behind the counter, number one, which is anybody would understand that would be a restricted area. And number two, there was no place for this fellow to retreat, meaning the alleged the bodega worker had no place to retreat. He couldn't run away. He had to defend himself at that point. The question is, did the bodega have a right to use deadly force? And I think an argument could legitimately be made that he did, in fact, have a right to use deadly force. But that's usually up to a jury to make that determination.
Well, I know this is not going to go to a grand jury. It looks like the charges are going to be withdrawn from what I understand.
Right.
You know what this was the part in law school that was always a little complicated. Is it what a reasonable person thinks is going to be in terms of the level of danger, or is it what because you're of diminished capacity, you're not of big size, is it what you think, or is it what a reasonable person who is you would think? It's a tough one to answer.
Those are very tricky areas that you're talking about, and juries have problems with that, because the how you respond is what a reasonable person in your situation would reasonably think under the circumstances. And the bodega owner in this case could have reasonably concluded that this guy was going to beat him to a pulp. Now, are you supposed to wait until you're beaten to a pulp? Are you supposed to wait? He already pushed him down once. Are you supposed to wait till you're on the floor and somebody's stomping you, knocking your teeth out? Maybe you're going to lose an eye. At what point do you say, no mas, I'm going to take action? He took action. There's an easy way for this guy to have avoided getting stabbed. Don't attack somebody.
Do you see these types of cases in your office where you use self-defense as a justification for your clients who are injuring others?
Sure. I mean, the very first question I ask, I mean, I get, assaults, attempted murders, murder cases all the time. And one of the very first question I'm going to ask of my client was, how did this situation unfold? Did this occur when there was a robbery? I mean, did you have a previous interaction with this individual, right? And so again, distinguish between physical force used to repel and deadly force, because the rules are a little bit different, right? So if somebody comes up and attacks you, they punch you in the face, you can't run away. You're supposed to try to fight him back, right? And use your fist or use comparable type of force. That's what you're supposed to do. But let's say somebody comes up to you and they have a knife and they come to stab you. Well, at that point, you can use deadly force. If you reasonably believe that your life is in danger or the life of a third person is in danger, you could use deadly force. This is also extended, for example, let's say you were walking, you had nothing to do with the assailant, and you walk into a room and you see a man that is sexually assaulting a woman, right? Or a man, for that matter. You have the right to go up to that person, take out a gun and shoot him dead.
Yep.
Because that involves a rape, right? Or a kidnapping.
Does the city seem not as safe to you? I mean, you've been doing this a long time. You're in my area in the South Bronx where we work. Does it seem that crime is on the uptick? You got your feet on the ground. What are your thoughts?
Well, I read the papers like everybody else, and I think it is. I think it is on the uptake. Whether it's on the uptake for the reasons that people are alleging, I'm not 100% clear. I mean, there seems to be a serious homeless-related issue, even around the courthouse. Your office is right near mine.
Yeah, I see.
And I'm sure you've noticed there's an increase of homeless people. These are usually people with mental health problems or drug-related problems. Why is that on the increase? And a lot of these issues And a lot of these criminal acts are being caused by people with mental health disorders. Are they not being treated? Are they being kicked out of hospitals? Is there a lack of social workers and psychiatrists that are prepared to treat them? I think that is in fact true. So it's not, I don't think it's necessarily that, suddenly people decided, hey, I'm in the mood to commit crime more than I did in the past. There are factors that lead up to that. And I think those are some of the factors.
Does it look like there's an increase in prosecuting these types of crimes more often than they did in the past? Or does it look like, especially the Bronx DA, is kind of letting some of these offenses just kind of go to the wayside?
No, I don't believe that. If there's a serious assault, the district attorney's office in the Bronx, they're going to take action.
They are.
If somebody loses, somebody seriously stabbed, somebody shot, they're not going to just let that go by the wayside. I mean, that would be grossly irresponsible. Now, sometimes they don't have a case. Sometimes witnesses disappear. Sometimes there's a real legitimate issue of self-defense. But if there's a legitimate crime, district attorney's office is not just, wiping their hands clean and just walking away. Not from what I see.
Well, that's all the time we have, Alexander. I want to thank you. As usual, you're wonderful. And let the viewers know where they can reach you if they have a criminal issue.
Sure. My office is located at 860 Grand Concourse, right by the courthouse. But you could always find me at alexandersanchez.com.
Wonderful. All right. Stay with us. Today's verdict.
Terrific. Thank you. See you soon. Bye-bye.
Yes. Bye-bye.
New York State Assembly member Kenny Burgos presents the Youth Resource Fair at the Bronx River Houses Community Center.
The reason why we're here is to provide resources to the youth. Our community, we don't have enough resources, especially for the kids in our community. And I thought this would be a great idea for us to, to gather a couple of organizations that are doing a lot of great work in the community, that provide a lot of good resources, financial literacy, college readiness, IT programs, that is out of the outreach of the kids, in our community. So, I invited a couple of organizations. And this is why we're here, just to let the kids know this is what is available in the community.
The fair included various programs for young people to get involved with and learn life skills that will help them in the future.
NPower is a national nonprofit that provides free technical training, professional development, and job placement assistance for young adults and veterans. It provides a pathway to greater employment opportunities within the tech industry. As you know, tech industry is growing and ever expanding. Technology is an everyday part of our life, and lots of companies and organizations, they need qualified tech professionals to be able to support those systems. And our organization provides the opportunity for people from underserved communities or diverse backgrounds to enter into the tech industry by providing them with the technical training, the certifications, the professional development, and the support they need to be able to start working.
Rocking the Boat, as I said, a youth development organization for middle school and high school youth. So they can come to us and they can learn carpentry and woodworking and learn how to build wooden rowboats, which we use on the Bronx River. We row the public in the summer for free in Hunts Point Riverside Park on Saturdays and Sundays. So yes, I encourage everybody to come out and discover the Bronx River and get a ride on a rowboat and see what that's all about.
We're a nonprofit. We're about to celebrate our 40th anniversary. We're located in the northeast section of the Bronx, but more recently we've been doing work in different zip codes and different areas of the Bronx. We have a youth financial literacy program that we have implemented and we're trying to expand on. So we're here just gathering information and feedback from the teens here to hear more about what they're looking for, and hopefully they can be part of that second cohort for the youth financial literacy initiative that we have.
As you saw, the young people were fully invested in the information they were given. For BronxNet, this is Kyrie Moody. Before the rain came, the sun shined on the Bronx Defenders' 25th anniversary for their annual block party. The party included hamburgers and hot dogs from the grill, ice-cold drinks, and games for all ages.
We're here today because this, of all the things on our calendar as an organization, our yearly block party is one of the most highlighted of our events. And over the past 2 years, the pandemic has meant that we haven't been able to have the event, which meant that we didn't get a chance to engage the community in this way like we have for the past 20 years. And it's literally when our staff, volunteers, interns come out and engage the community, and we engage on a human level in a way that says that we are part of the community and that we value them as neighbors.
Bronx Defenders is an organization that is celebrating its 25th anniversary. We're a nonprofit legal defense organization that believes in holistic defense, meaning if you come through the doors of Bronx Defenders, you not only get a lawyer, but you get a team of people ready to help you address all your concerns, not just legal concerns, but also the social concerns. Because we know that in the Bronx, people are not only impacted by the criminal justice system, but they are also impacted by all the other things that come with poverty. They're impacted with homelessness, immigration issues, education issues, parenting issues, all types of issues.
Andrew Barrow has been a community member and neighbor of the Bronx Defenders for 12 years, and he shares how the Bronx Defenders had an impact on his life.
I've been living in this community for about 12 years on top of the Bronx Defenders. I see the passion that they put into the community. I mean, as you can see, we're on the 25th year of the annual block party. I mean, you gotta give it to them. This is the Bronx. You know what goes on in the Bronx. We need somebody to defend the people in the Bronx. Togetherness. When I first came here, there wasn't no togetherness. But now there's togetherness. As you can see, look at the community I live in. Togetherness. We eating, we drinking, we partying, we having fun together. That's what it's all about.
Congratulations to the Bronx Defenders for 25 years of service to the Bronx community. For BronxNet, this is Kyrie Moody.
All right, welcome back to today's verdict. I'm your host and trial attorney, David Lesch. We welcome the acting deputy commissioner for the Office of Labor Policy and Standards, Liz Wagoner. Liz, thanks for being here today.
Thank you.
All right, so let's get right into. We're going to be talking about a settlement with Chipotle, which I happen to like their food, but I don't like the way they were treating their employees. Maybe you could just give the viewers a little bit of a background here of how your office got involved with some issues involving Chipotle.
Sure. So our office enforces the New York City Fair Workweek laws. The Fair Workweek laws exist to give scheduling protections to fast food workers so that workers can have work schedules that allow them to plan their work hours, their lives, and their budgets. So in this case, workers started coming to us from Chipotle in about 2018, reporting to us that they were not getting the scheduling protections that city law offers them. So things like not getting their work schedules 14 days in advance, as the law requires, not having the right to leave work on time at the end of their scheduled shift, but instead being required to work late. And not getting the extra premium pay, an extra amount of money that workers are supposed to get when their shifts are shortened unexpectedly or when their shifts are lengthened. So the law provides between $10 to $75 extra for schedule changes like that.
When the employees reach out to you, how do they get to you? Are they emailing you? Are they walking into your office? But this is important because there are many different organizations that are not treating employees properly. And I always wondered how those employees know where to go. So how do they even find you? How does that work?
Yeah. So some workers find us through 311. That's probably the most common way, is workers, maybe see an ad about scheduling protections on the subway or on a bus shelter, and then call 311 saying anything about scheduling will route people to us, or anything about sick time will route people to us. In this case, though, most of the workers came to us because they were talking to the union SEIU 32BJ. And then the union explained to workers what their rights were and helped them file complaints with us. And we do often get complaints through advocacy organizations like that as well. So whether it's Legal Aid or Make the Road New York or a union like 32BJ, they are important partners to help workers find out about their rights and connect with us.
Let's talk about schedules in terms of your ability to work. I know you said 14 days in advance. What is specifically the rules that apply for, let's just say, fast food restaurants to maintain that they give their employees adequate notice of what their schedules are going to be?
Yeah, so the work schedule has to be provided 14 days in advance.
And that's in writing? Is that is that on the phone?
Yeah.
How does that work?
So it's got to be posted in the restaurant, and it's also needs to be transmitted to workers electronically if the employer has a system for providing schedules electronically, which most companies do. So that's going to be by email or text message or through an app.
Is there a certain amount of employees that the company needs to have? You know, you need to have at least, 50 employees. What if it's a mom and pop shop in Manhattan? Like, is there a difference there?
Yeah, so fast food restaurants that are covered are restaurants with 30 locations nationwide under the same branding. So if you have a franchise with fewer than 30 locations, but the brand has at least 30 nationwide, then you would be covered by these laws.
So what if you're dealing with, like, let's say Subway, right? And and Subway has tons of franchises all over the city, but they don't realize until about 2 days before that they're getting half their staff calling in sick because of COVID or any other reason. And now they don't have anyone in the store. So they call up me and they say, come on, you got to come in. And I said, wait a second, my schedule was 14 days in advance. It said I'm off today. What's Subway supposed to do? I mean, are they not supposed to, they're supposed to close their store and not serve their sandwiches? Well, how does that work?
The law does allow for schedule changes. It would just provide that the worker gets an extra amount of money for, doing that service to the company of agreeing to come in last minute. Obviously workers need to make arrangements for childcare. They may have had, a class in school that they're rushing in for. And so the law says, well, the employer can absolutely call anybody they want to call in. The worker has a right to say no if they can't do it. If the worker does agree, then the worker would get an extra amount of money for that, which would be a $15 premium.
And you mentioned something about really overtime for, when the employee stays later than they're supposed to say. First of all, is that all right? And if it is not all right, how do you make up for it in terms of either money or vacation pay or something else? How does that work?
Yeah, so the key here is that the worker has the right to stick to their scheduled hours if they want to. If the worker needs to leave on time or wants to leave on time, that is their right. However, the company can ask, many people do want to stay late to get more hours and more income. And the company just needs to ask the worker at some point before the end of the shift, are you willing to stay late? And then if the worker agrees, the worker would sign a document saying that they agreed to work late. So that's how that works. So, schedule changes are allowed under the law. There's just procedures to ensure that the worker is given an opportunity to leave on time, has the right to say no, and then gets extra premium pay if they work late. And there's a grace period in the law, so it's 15 minutes. So the worker, if the worker is under 15 minutes late, they don't need to get anything in writing. That employer can just do that without paying a premium or getting anything in writing. But more than 15 minutes late, that's when we're looking for consent in writing and a premium payment.
All right, let's talk specifically about Chipotle. And that's really why we're here. They got hit with a lawsuit, and then they had a nice settlement. They're approximately $20 million in compensation to approximately 13,000 workers who experience violations of their right to predictable schedules. And they have to pay $1 million in civil penalties, correct?
That's right.
Now, let's talk about the money that's going into the employees' pockets, because that's really the most important thing. So they can get compensated for what the time they missed. How do you calculate what you're owed and what you get? If I was a Chipotle employee, I was there a couple of years and now I'm gone. But wait a second, I'm entitled to money. How much money? Where do I get my money? That's what my viewers would like to know.
Yeah. So employees, anyone who worked at a New York City Chipotle location in an hourly position is entitled to $50 per work week worked at a location in New York City. We have a settlement administrator who's administering the settlement. There's a website that's live as of today, chipotlefairworkweeksettlement.com. So go to that website, and there's information on there about how to contact the settlement administrator. But the key thing to know is that for employees who were employed as of April 30th, 2022, you're going to receive a check in the mail. If you need to update your address, go to that website. There's information about how to do that. Employees who were not employed as of April 30th, 2022, but were employed at some point from November 26, 2017 through April 30th, 2022, you'll be able to file a claim on that website after September 18th, 2022. Just submit a web form online, and then you'll get a payment in early 2023.
Well, it was really great work by your organization. Your organization always does great work, but what's on the horizon? What else do you have? Who's in your who's in your sights? Hopefully it's not any law firms. What are you looking at in terms of fair pay, scheduling? Is there any other organizations that seem to be in the midst of some type of litigation, or besides Chipotle, anyone else? I know Verizon was up there once for you guys, and we've had other people who've been on the show that from your organization. Who's next, should I say?
Well, the day before we announced the Chipotle settlement, we announced a settlement involving a Dunkin' Donuts franchisee in Staten Island for similar types of violations. It was a one location that we looked at there, whereas Chipotle was citywide. We do have a number of Fair Work Week investigations involving fast food and retail. I can't comment on
Sure.
who those investigations are into, but Chipotle is Dunkin'. Those are not the only ones. So do anticipate more announcements along these lines in the coming year.
Well, the Department of Consumer and Worker Protection does great work. We always appreciate when they come on, and appreciate you and everybody else. And hopefully you'll come back in the next couple of weeks and let us know if you have any updates for any worker protection lawsuits that are coming.
Thank you. We'd love to.
That's great. All right, stay with us. Today's Verdict has so much more right after this. Well, that's all we have for today. I'd like to thank our guests for joining us, and of course, you, the viewers, for watching. If you have a topic or an issue you'd like to see on a future edition of Today's Verdict, feel free to email me at davidlesch@bronxnet.org. Until the next time, know your issues, reach a verdict. We'll see you in 2 weeks.